Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny along with Kenny Squared. Welcome back to another edition of Sports on the Positive Tip, where we have conversations at the intersection of sports and faith. Kenny, I ran across this article in the New York Post, and it's the list of 25 athletes, and these are all relatively recent athletes that played in New York and makes you say, "What? He played here?" So I'm going to rattle some names off for you. Jose Canseco. Do you remember 2000 Yankees?
I do remember him being on there for a second, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't tell you in a bat or anything he had.
Yeah, it was a big deal because I think the Yankees got him by mistake. They claimed him on waivers, and they thought I don't know who he was with at the time in 2000. Maybe it was Texas. They thought he
I
was
was
going to
Tampa. Was it
Tampa.
Tampa?
Maybe Tampa. Yeah, yeah. Um, do you remember Hall of Fame punt, one of the few punt returners in the Hall of Fame, Brian Mitchell? Do you remember him on the '03 Giants?
Nah.
Yeah, me neither. Here's a good one. Dikembe Mutombo, the late Dikembe Mutombo, on the '03-'04 Knicks. You remember him on the Knicks? Okay.
I remember that because people were hyped about it, and then he played like 3 games or something like that.
Yeah, he got hurt, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Pudge Rodriguez on the '08 Yankees.
Yeah, he's part of a trivia question, one of the few teams that had, I believe, 4 MVPs.
Okay.
I'm to tell you who the four, probably Clemens, A-Rod, him, and oh gosh, I don't even know who the other one would be.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up on the old. I just remember him getting into a fight with Torrey Hunter because he shoved Torrey Hunter. Torrey Hunter shoved him in the back at home plate. I think he was on the Yankees then, if I remember right. And I think Torrey Hunter was on the Angels at that time. Um, this one I really don't remember. Tracy McGrady played on the '09 and '10 Knicks.
Yeah, I remember that.
Really?
I don't. Yeah,
I,
because
I,
that
I
was another one where it was like people were hyped about it, but he didn't really do anything.
yeah, I don't remember that. Lance Berkman on the 2010 Yankees.
Oh, I remember that because
Okay.
people were really hyped about his postseason and he did nothing.
Okay. All right. Baron Davis on the 11-12 Knicks. I remember Baron
Yeah,
Davis, but he didn't do that much if I
oh
remember either. Yeah. Um,
yeah. It just clicked the other guy. The other MVP is Jason Giambi.
Jason Giambi, yeah. There you go. There you go. Wow. Derek Lowe on the 2012 Yankees. Derek Lowe, Red Sox, Derek Lowe?
Yeah, he was a reliever. Um, I remember he had a couple of big outs in the postseason that year. It's a bad
Really?
postseason for the Yankees, but
I
yeah.
s- I swear I don't remember because the other big Red Sox that played on the 2013 Yankees, Kevin Youkilis. Yes, okay, so you're
Yeah.
imitating this. All right. I swear I don't remember Kevin Youkilis on the Yankees. I think because
He
we just
was
associate them with other teams.
Yeah, he also he got hurt. That was the year that everyone got hurt and Lyle Overbay and Vernon Wells were anchoring the lineup, but
Wow.
he only played like 20 or so games.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Um, okay, here's one I know I don't remember. Ed Reed, Hall of Famer Ed Reed, played on the 2013 Jets. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't remember
Yeah.
that. Wow. Um, Bobby Abreu on the 2014 Mets. I remember that.
Oh, I do vaguely remember that.
Yeah. Troy Tulowitzki, 2019 Yankees.
Yeah, he also, I mean, like he normally does, he got hurt very quickly. So,
Yeah. Well, these other Jets, I sort of remember Chris Johnson, who was an excellent running back for a couple of years on the 2014 Jets, but of course I remember Michael Vick on the 2014 Jets.
yeah.
Yeah. That's an
How could
easy
you
one.
forget him?
Yeah. Blake Griffin on the 21-22 Nets.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
Blake Griffin, I've seen more in commercials now than anything
I
else.
know, yeah, and as an announcer, right? Demarius Thomas, one of the best tight ends of all time on the 2019 Jets.
I feel like I remember
I
that.
I do remember Dalvin Cook on the 2023 Jets. He was definitely past his prime.
He
Um,
was cooked.
He was last one, and I think I'm not sure why this is on the list because who can forget Kemba Walker on the 21-22 Knicks?
Yeah, yeah, that also was tough because we were like, oh yeah, Kemba Walker,
We
like
were
things are
excited.
gonna get great, and then it
Yeah,
just nothing happened.
yeah, because you remember, I think they paired him on the Celtics with Kyrie, and I remember our great friend um, from up there, Dave, was like, "No, Kemba Walker's not a good player anymore." And I was like, "Oh, you kidding? He had good numbers." He said, "No, he's not." And sure enough, man, and Kemba Walker is the guy you wanted to love, right? From UConn and local guy from Brooklyn. But I think it was the injuries. Hey, one last one that's gonna make. We know that our dear brother Larry listens all the time, and this one's gonna make him drive off the road and pass out because I don't remember this. But John Van Beesbrook, who was one of the best Rangers goalies, especially of all time, played on the 2000-2001 Islanders. I
Ooh.
don't remember that for a second, but he just drove off the road. All right, lots to do. We've got a lot of baseball, a lot of football, a little bit of NBA sprinkled in. You ready to get it going?
Let's get into it.
This episode of Sports on the Positive Tip is brought to you by the Tavern Coffee House. Attention, coffee lovers! Are you craving the perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Well, look no further than the Tavern Coffee House. It's located at 12302 Buckeye Road in Cleveland, Ohio. You can also check them out and order your coffee at thetaverncoffee.com. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny and
Kenny squared.
with the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. And Kenny, we've got a lot to cover, including a lot of stuff in the NFL. And I'm just going to be a little bit all over the place with baseball. I'm just going to bounce some things off you, some free agents, the new Hall of Fame class that are eligible this year to go in. But I want to start here and just give you some time and space. You nailed it, man. When you put all the stats together, you nailed it, I think you were very, very fair. And of course, you're a big Yankees fan and a big Aaron Judge fan. I love Aaron Judge as well, but I just didn't think he was going to get the MVP. I thought Cal Raleigh was going to get it with the 60 homers, but you were steadfast, and sure enough, that night, you texted me that Judge got it. So go ahead and wrap it up and leave you some time and space. Why did Judge get it instead of Raleigh?
Well, let me start with this. Cal Raleigh had a great season. Historic season for a catcher. 60 home runs, best season by a switch hitter. Um, he also, I think the most impressive stat that people don't talk about, zero pass balls all year.
Wow. Yeah,
Um,
that's amazing.
which like as a catcher, that's
Yeah.
totally impressive. Platinum glove, like he's got it all going. But two things can be true at the same time. And while he had an excellent season, Aaron Judge just had a better season. People love to talk about the historic season that Cal Raleigh had. Judge also had a very historic season, and I could go into a lot of stats. I'm just going to stick with two. First, he batted 331 to win the batting title and hit 53 home runs.
Amazing.
That's the
331.
most home runs anybody has hit while winning the batting title
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So that's pretty historic. The other one, OPS plus, a stat that I like a lot. It's based off of 100 as the average player. It also factors in ballparks for all the people that are like, oh, well, Yankee Stadium is a bandbox and all. Just fact, Cal Raleigh would have hit about 48, 49 home runs if all of his home runs were hit at Yankee Stadium. But anyway, um, it factors in ballpark as well as strength of opponent. So it's a pretty good comparable stat. Cal Raleigh had a 169 OPS plus, so 69% better than the average player. Great. Aaron Judge had a 215 OPS plus,
My
which means
God.
he was 115% better than the average player.
Wow.
Also, 46% better than Cal Raleigh.
Yeah.
So, like, I think it's a good comparable thing. The other thing with OPS plus and why it makes this so historic, Aaron Judge with a 200 or more OPS plus. There's only three other players that have done that since 2000. Barry Bonds, Juan Soto in 2020.
Wow.
So we're only talking a 60 game sample size. Probably should have won the MVP that year, but whatever. And Aaron Judge, 3 out of the last 4 years.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
what we're seeing is the best offensive player. And what I'm liking about what baseball is doing, because you can also look at Shohei Ohtani in the same way, where he's won the MVP 4 out of the last 5 years, is they're not just giving it to the guy with the best story. The NBA typically does that. The NFL typically does that. They're just giving it to whoever's the best player right now.
Yeah.
And I think in the American League, it's Aaron Judge, and the National League, it's Shohei Ohtani.
Now,
But what
does
about?
yeah?
Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
No, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. I have a question for you after. Go ahead. Say what you were gonna say.
But what about Cal Raleigh as a catcher? But we also don't necessarily give the MVP based on position.
Yeah.
Like if someone hit more home runs than any other second baseman, we wouldn't be like, oh well, they're automatically the MVP.
Yeah.
It's rare that we kind of do that. Um, and then also all of the, oh well, this is just East Coast bias. It's not. In New York, 2 writers voted for the MVP. One voted for Judge, one voted for Raleigh. On the East Coast, there were 10 writers. Half voted for Judge, half voted for Raleigh.
Yeah.
So miss me with that East Coast stuff. Also, in the National League, Shohei Ohtani, who is on the West Coast, last I checked, was unanimous. And there were 2 East Coast guys who you could have made a pretty good case for in Juan Soto, who almost had a 40-40 season in his first of a contract year, or his first in a big contract. And also Kyle Schwarber, who was on the East Coast. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he
Well,
deserves it.
I totally agree. Even though I didn't think he would get it, remember I said that I think Judge deserves it, but I thought that Raleigh would get it. The question I was going to ask is this a sign that there are some younger voters that look at those different numbers that you talk OPS plus? Is this a sign that um I guess A, that they're looking at more overall, and B, does that make it a little bit more fairer? Because I think you're right. I think, 10 years ago, even with this season that Judge had, 10, 15 years ago, Raleigh would have definitely got it with these type of numbers.
I don't know. The biggest thing that I think hurts Raleigh is that to the younger voters, the more analytic stats really speak to them.
Yeah.
But also for the older voters, I think what really speaks to them is the fact that Judge hit 331 and Cal Raleigh was at 247, and we've
47.
never elected an MVP or never voted for an MVP that was that had a batting average under 260.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think the low batting average would have been like, well, like I don't know how I feel about those home runs, but
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the last thing, and you articulated it so well, I don't really have anything else to add to it. But the last thing, and you might can clear this up because I don't remember quite. If one or two voters had changed their votes, it would have been a tie. Was
two.
that accurate? Two voters?
Yeah. Because
Wow.
it was 17-13.
Yeah.
So if and Judge and Raleigh both got all of the first and second votes. So yeah, if 2 voters changed, then we would have had a tie, which would have been
Okay.
interesting and it would have infuriated, I think, everyone.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nothing like 1979, with no, it infuriated no one back then, although everyone felt like Hernandez should have been the sole MVP back then, but Willie Stargell was just, because of the leader he was on that team. But this, I think, would have been very interesting this day and time, such a different era in baseball. Well, let's stay with baseball. So, I I want to start here. Both you and I have listened to Evan Roberts for a long time. We both like him, and he doesn't just come up with stuff out of nowhere. And he'll tell you this is my opinion, but he yesterday, I think it was yesterday, he said that there was a source, and he said he's not a journalist, so he doesn't have a ton of sources. He admits that, hey, I'm a radio personality, and he wears his fandom on his sleeves, right? He's a Nets fan, and and a Mets fan and a Jets fan, but he said that he does have one source that works in the office of the agent that represents these two players. And the source told him that the Mets and Angels have talked a lot about a Mike Trout for Brandon Nimmo. That would be the framework of the trade. Now they both have full no trade clauses, right? They both still have 5 years left on their deal. Uh, Trout's 5 years is 36 million a year, and Nemo's is about 20 million a year. So the Mets would be taking on about 16 more million in salary, and and of course Trout would have to agree to play, in New York. Trout is a guy from Southern New Jersey, so I don't think that that would be an issue. Nemo would have to agree to play in beautiful Anaheim, but he's from Wyoming, so he's from out west. I'm not sure that that would be an issue either. What were your immediate thoughts on that?
If I'm the Mets, I'd do that immediately.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
and I know Trout has his injury history, but I feel like the Mets this year, especially after the disappointing end to the season, um, they need to kind of make a big splash to get like the Met fans excited. Because I think if you go into the season with the same team, you're to be like, how is anything different? Now, granted, I think their big splash should be a starting pitcher, like a guy like a Dylan Cease or someone like that.
Yeah.
But outfield was kind of a little bit of a black hole. Uh, you can put in Trout at center field, left field, and like he's still pretty good defensively. He'll
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
he can stay healthy, he'll give you
Yeah.
30 home runs, 40 home runs. So,
That,
um,
that's my only thing is the health. Yeah. Yeah. That's
yeah,
and I love Brandon Nimmo. I think I'd love to see him be a Met for life, and he was still very productive last year. I'm sure he had 90 RBIs, 25 homers. He's still a very good player, and he doesn't hurt you in left field. He's still good out there. I would do it if Trout is healthy, but he never plays in his last 5 years. I think, he hasn't played a full season. I don't know the exact games that he's missed, but he's missed a lot more games than he's played over the last 4 or 5 years. But the guy is one of the best players ever. I think that he will still go to the Hall of Fame. But I do think the Mets might be at a tipping point where they do shake it up and say, well, these guys that the fans love, and I'll get to Pete Alonso, and I want to hear your thoughts on him. But these guys that the fans love, the Met fans, include myself included, love Brandon Nimmo. Met fans, myself included, love Jeff McNeil. Met fans, me included, love Pete Alonso, right? And these are homegrown guys that have spent their entire career with the Mets. And so, but what have we won? With them. We did get to the championship series last year, but we haven't really won anything. So is David Stearns now thinking, let's shake it up and get a different mentality type ball players in here? Now, no one plays harder than Jeff McNeil. And I thought he had a good year last year, but I'm starting to feel like his days of batting 300, being a batting champ, are over. Nimmo, I think, like I said, is still good, and Nimmo plays pretty much every day. Doesn't get hurt much. He had injuries a little bit earlier in his career, but he plays pretty much every. Pete plays every day. So do you think that Stearns would start to take that step to really change almost the culture of the Mets? Because if you take Nimmo, McNeil, and Alonso even off this team, or even Edwin Diaz, God forbid, you're really changing the culture of the team. Do you think he would go that far to do that?
honestly, if he were to make a move like this, I think this is more of a Cohen trying to make him do a little bit more of like a splashy star type of move.
Right.
Because even like I'd said, I think they should be the guys to go out and get a guy like Dylan Cease or um Framber under the right contract.
Yeah.
But I feel like they want to find their next Frankie Montas that'll actually work.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Or um another move I can see the Mets doing, which I don't know if this will work out, but they see Clay Holmes worked really well,
Yeah.
former Yankee reliever that struggled at times but is a starter. Do you do the same thing with a Luke Weaver and try to get him, who has started in the past,
Right.
and try to convert him into a starter?
Yeah.
And like But to me, you're the Mets under Steve Cohen, and you can make a lot of money and you can spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
go and get a frontline ace, then you'll be in good shape.
yeah.
I do think the Mets kind of need a slight culture reset. I thought Juan Soto would kind of help bring that, but it kind of seems like it didn't.
Right,
But also Soto, I'm going to make this comparison not because he spurned the Yankees, but he kind of is feeling a little like Kevin Durant, where he's an excellent talent, but he's not the guy that really wants to lead the team and
right.
to like set the culture.
Yeah,
And that's why Durant works so well in Golden State because he could just ball out. And you got Steph Curry kind of leading the way, Draymond Green.
yeah.
Maybe that guy is Lindor. I know for a while that guy was Pete Alonso. I have a feeling though that Pete Alonso's probably gone. I think that someone I kind of and I hate this, but I kind of feel like a good fit for him is the Red Sox, who might lose Bregman. They've needed like a power bat in the middle of that lineup too. So I don't know. But I think the Mets need to kind of get move a little bit of that core. You can keep Lindor, obviously you're gonna keep Soto. Um, but I think looking at a McNeil or Nimmo trade, I think would be good too.
Yeah. Yeah, I my heart skipped a beat there when you said the Mets will probably lose Pete Alonso. Let's stay with the Mets for just another minute or two, and then we'll go around and I tell you, I was there's some under the radar free agents that I think would be great. A couple of other things on the Mets. I if they do lose Pete Alonso, I have no idea where they go. Maybe it's Cody Bellinger, which I know that would hurt you. And the Yankees, and I think Bellinger could fit in a lot of places because of his versatility, and he's a winning ball player. But I think he fits extremely well with the Yankees. Um, I mean, the talk here is definitively, especially on SNY, which I would think a lot of these guys have some insight on the Mets. They really feel like Kodai Senga is gone because, we thought that was a ridiculous contract a few years ago, but apparently it's a good contract now. But the Mets, for some reason, have really, really soured on him. I don't know what happened at the end of last year. You never heard anything about after he went to the minors. So maybe there's something internally that the fans just don't know about there. But I would think a healthy Kodai Senga we'd want to bring back because I mean it's not New York with him. He pitched fine here. It just seemed health with him, but something really went sideways. Um, I'm going to tie these two guys in together, and apparently the Mets have been in some relatively deep negotiations apparently with Devin Williams. And on the side here, you've got Edwin Diaz saying 50-50 is, when someone asks him, what are the chances of you coming back to the Mets? But I think that's a fair answer for any free agent, right? Um, but I think that they could bring Devin Williams in and put him in the seventh inning or the eighth inning and and bring Diaz back. I, Someone asked me the other day, would I rather Diaz or Alonso? I'm like, I want both back. See, I think Pete Alonso is part of the fabric of the Mets, but I don't. I think he enhances the Met culture because he plays every day. He hustles. He loves it here. He's their all-time home run leader. You'd love to see him hit 500 home runs as a Met, right? And he had a great year last year. He really whatever happened the year before, he straightened it out. 38 homers, 125, 126 RBIs. I don't know how you replace that. So I think there's some interesting things bubbling under with the Mets. Um, I want to ask you though about these two. So we've got a couple of free agents that's already signed, right? Rafael Iglesias back with the Braves, Josh Naylor back with the Mariners. I thought that was a very good signing. They might have overpaid him a little bit, but I think they almost felt like they had to because of what he meant to that team in the second half. Um, but what did you think about the four players? And you had one guy, right? Trent Grisham, the four players that accepted these qualifying offers, which you never see. I think since they've had this in the history, I think only 15 players total accepted qualifying offers. And all of a sudden we saw this year four players, including Trent Grisham. What were your thoughts?
Well, I'll start with Trent Grisham. I don't like it because if you're looking at like the Cohen tax threshold is like I think it's like 307 or something like that. As like kind of your financial ceiling, Trent Grisham ate up like a lot of that money just now. And it makes you wonder, are you going to spend the money now on Cody Bellinger? I think they still will because you kind of can't lose Bellinger in that lineup. And you could probably do some fancy accounting stuff so that you pay him less this year as opposed to like you backload the contract or whatever. But either way, um, I'm a little surprised because I thought that a lot of people would be looking for multi-year deals, considering that we're looking at a lockout probably after the end of the 2026 season, which I mean, there's still time and we could see that not happen, but I'm just a little surprised that a lot of these guys were just like, I'm not even going to try to test free agency. Like a guy like Gleyber Torres, who was an all-star, is a very good second baseman. You're telling me he couldn't get like a 2-year, $40 million deal? Trent
That's tough.
Grisham is coming up.
Yeah.
Like like Trent Grisham also, he's 30 home runs. Uh like I guess he really just liked playing with the Yankees. I don't know. I think it's very interesting because now all these guys like and Woodruff and Imanaga too. I thought Imanaga would get a pretty decent deal. So I'm a
Woodruff,
little surprised by it.
I was, yeah, I was too. Woodruff is the only one I wasn't surprised by because, he did pitch in the second half last year, right? He's come back from his injury, but he wasn't crazy effective. He's still kind of the remnants of his injury. But my guess is like Sandy Alcantara second half last year. I think as he gets past the rust, I think that comes with the surgery that he had. I think Woodruff will get back to being an excellent pitcher. He might not be, the Cy Young contender and contending pitcher that he was in the past. He's gonna be a very good pitcher. Him, I understood. Trent Grisham, I understood a little bit too, though, because I, he might have thought, "Hey, nobody's paying me $22 million." He might have said, I better take this and have another good year, and then maybe I'll walk into free agency." Because Trent Grisham was looked at as a great defensive outfielder for a long time, right, with the Padres. But he's never been an excellent hitter, and then all of a sudden he hits 34 homers last year. Um, the other two guys, Glaber especially, I was really really surprised. Um, so hey, let me throw some under the radar. We know the big Kyles, right? The two Kyles, Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber. They're gonna get paid somewhere, right? And a lot of talk that, of course, the Mets, if they lose Pete, should go after Schwarber. And Schwarber, then you don't have to worry about DH, and you'll have the Thunder in your lineup. I think if the Phillies lose him, if they lose Realmuto, and if they lose Ranger Suarez, those are the three big guys they have in free agency. I think the Phillies. I'm not saying they wouldn't be contenders anymore, but their culture would definitely be different, right? What do you think?
Yeah, and I think the Phillies culture also needs a little bit of a shakeup.
Yeah,
Uh, because like I mean, 2022 they make the World Series, and it kind of seems like it's gone a little downhill since then.
yeah,
Um, you had said Mike Trout for the Mets. Mike Trout would fit in perfectly with the Phillies,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
the
He would.
Trout and Harper on the same team would be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, I think that it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, they'll definitely bring back Schwarber. Um, the, he might be a little bit too expensive.
yeah,
Schwarber's also a good fit in a lot of different places. Like you look at the Red Sox, you look at the Braves, as I think a couple of really big spots.
yeah,
Obviously, the Yankees loved Kyle Schwarber years ago, but
yeah,
he doesn't fit here.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I do wonder because I feel like they're going to be one of those teams that like they make a couple of kind of shift type of moves. Maybe they're not necessarily better, but just having like the different player in the lineup might help them a lot.
yeah. And there's still all that talk about getting rid of Castellanos. I mean, if you then get rid of him, and because they've said it out loud a little bit, that devalues his trade value, right? Because you're not going to get, I think, a ton for him. I think he's still a very very good player. Um, Here's some other free agents under the wire. Well, I don't know that Bo Bichette is under the wire. I think a lot of people just don't realize what a good player he's been the last few years. And I know he had the injury, but he still did well in the World Series. Bregman, of course, we know about him and his pedigree for the postseason. And the pitchers, you've got Framber Valdez. You know, I've always liked him. Ice water in his veins. I always thought he was an excellent pitcher. Dylan Cease, everybody's talked about him for several years now. Ranger Suarez. Of course, you have Skubal, who's not a free agent, but Tigers might want to part with him because they're so far apart on contract negotiations. Other hitters under the radar, Eugenio Suarez, I think, would make a good fit for a lot of teams. I would think the Mariners would go out of their way to try to keep him. Cedric Mullins, you laughed at me earlier, but Cedric Mullins up until this year, he was pretty good. I don't know what happened with the Mets. I know he's not coming back to the Mets. I'll put it that way. But Marcell Ozuna is the one that I'd be very interested in as an everyday DH. He didn't have his best year last year, but he's not that old. And a couple of years ago, he got some MVP votes. I think he had 39 homers, 118 RBIs, something like that, 2 years ago, and he was pretty consistent for the Braves. Hard for me to see the Braves letting him walk away though, but they might, So we'll see what happens. Any of those free agents stick out for you? Anyone you think the Yankees will be interested in?
The one I want the Yankees to be interested in, but they probably won't, would be Bo Bichette.
Okay.
Um, because like I think he was either first or second in the league in hits and missed a month of the season.
Yeah.
Um, his defense isn't great, but if you're that much of a prolific hitter, you don't really care about that.
Yeah.
Um, I think though one of the bigger things, the bigger questions of the offseason is whether or not Tarek Skubal gets traded.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about a guy that won back-to-back Cy Youngs. But also, like, if you're going to trade him, number one, you need to have the assets, which you're looking at both of our teams. I think both of our teams have the pitching assets to make that happen.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, you have to extend him because you can't give up your top two or three prospects and then let him walk in free agency after next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you would almost have to be like, okay, we're doing this. And also you've just become the biggest paid pitcher in baseball history. Like
Yeah.
you kind of have to do that.
Yeah.
But once again, we're talking the Yankees and the Mets. They should be able to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this is my Yankee fandom dreaming, but you're talking about a rotation with Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Garrett Cole, Cam Schlittler, and Tarek Skubal.
Oh,
I don't care who's in the lineup. You got Aaron Judge, you good.
yeah. Because nobody's gonna score any runs. Not on that
Nah.
staff. Wow. Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. We'll wrap up baseball with this. You were very, very, very lukewarm with the Hall of Fame class of 2026. And so I'll just fire the names off real quick. Ryan Braun, who has no chance. I'm sorry. Had a great career, but he has no chance. If all those guys like Bonds and Ramirez and Clemens and A-Rod aren't in, Ryan Braun has no chance. Uh, Shin Sin Chu, Edwin Encarnacion, who was a big slugger for a long time, right? Gio Gonzalez, Alex Gordon, who from my days in Kansas City, he was one of the most popular players in Royals history. But now the only guy who I named and you really poo-pooed it was Cole Hamels, Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, Daniel Murphy, Matt Kemp, Rick Porcello. Those are your new guys. Oh, and Hunter Pence. The only guy out of those, and I love Daniel Murphy. I thought Hunter Pence was a really good player and leader, especially on those Giant teams later in his career. Matt Kemp was a flash in the pan, had a couple of spectacular years, but I think injuries really ruined him. Howie Kendrick had some moments in the World Series, right, with the Nationals. Rick Porcello did win a Cy Young, if I remember, but Cole Hamels is the only one I think has at least a little bit of a shot. But you're giving him no shot.
I guess I will give him no shot, but okay, so he won 163 games, which I know wins in this era isn't that big of a deal.
Right.
Uh, the highest he finished in Cy Young voting was fifth.
Ooh, okay.
Um, he has four All-Star appearances,
Right.
15-year career, 2,500 strikeouts, 2,560.
Okay.
So like that's pretty good.
What's his
I think
ERA?
the biggest thing was that
What's his ERA?
his career ERA is 3.43.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, World Series and NLCS MVP in 2008,
Yeah.
which like that whole run he went 5-0. Let me pull up the full numbers
Yeah.
here.
He was good in the postseason.
Uh,
Yeah.
he was uh, why is it not giving me the total?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5-0, roughly a 2 ERA
Yeah. Yeah.
through over 30 innings. Like
Yeah.
he was excellent.
Yeah. He's
Um,
probably not getting it
his
though. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting it.
Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Baseball has a lot going on, so we'll keep sprinkling some stuff in. I'm liking that some of these guys are signing early. I hate when you have to wait till January and February. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Pete Alonso. Hopefully, before we get to late. So as we turn over to football, I'm going to bring up your chart, and to me, Ken. Well, let me ask you this first, as I bring your chart up. Shedeur Sanders is starting. What's the now? Listen, in terms of the Browns' record, it doesn't matter, right? But in terms of is this guy the future quarterback for the Browns? What are we feeling there in Cleveland? What's the mood? Give us the Midwest point of view there on Sanders starting, and what do you think you're looking for from him?
Well, he's got to be better than he was last week. It's 4-16, two interceptions, and he looked just as bad as Dylan Gabriel. Um, People keep saying things like, "Oh, well, he didn't get first team reps." Backups don't get first team reps,
Right.
especially when you're talking about when your QB1 is a rookie and still learning. Um, Against the Raiders, you need to at least show that you're competent. Even if you're not amazing, he cannot look as bad as he did with a 25% completion percentage, two interceptions. Like he has to put up a pretty decent one. I think also if we start to look at this and we're like, oh man, he's not looking great. The Browns are drafted another quarterback. That's what it's going to come down to. Um, right now, I believe they are third. Titans are one, Giants are two, and the Browns are third
I'm in the
in
Jets.
the draft order. So
Browns and Jets just go through quarterbacks like crazy. Before we jump in to your chart, I have one other question for you. And I want to know if you agree with this. If not, what was the biggest story? I thought the biggest story of the week, we talked about it a lot last week, was the Broncos pulling that game out against the Chiefs because that leaves the defending champs 5-5, and I'm wondering if we now are starting to see changing of the guard. It gives the Broncos really stronghold on the AFC West, but I thought it meant more that where does this leave the Chiefs? Did you think that was the biggest story and this week? And what are your thoughts on the Chiefs right now?
yeah, I think it is the biggest story because right now you're kind of looking and you're like, who the heck is going to win the AFC? Because like NFC, you're probably looking Rams, Eagles, maybe if the Lions get hot. But like, do you trust Daniel Jones to win three games with probably two of them coming on the road? Drake May is in his second year, Mike Vrabel in his first year as Patriots head coach. Do
Yeah,
you trust them to go on a run?
I don't know.
Um, the Bills have looked kind of up and down. Like, are they the team that kind of by default? The Ravens have been red hot. Are they the team that can finally get there? But honestly, like you said, I think it's got to be the Denver Broncos at this point if you're looking at just the AFC. I mean, you have a Super Bowl winning coach in Sean Payton. Um, you have Um, Bo Nix, who's not great, but is competent, especially in the fourth quarter. And you have a very high powered defense, and especially in the playoffs, that really plays really well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting because it does kind of feel like that shift, especially like the last few years, the top four quarterbacks in the AFC have been Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Joe Burrow. And Lamar struggled and also been hurt this year. Josh Allen's had his ups and downs. Mahomes has had his ups and downs, and Burrow's been hurt. So it does kind of feel like a little bit of that shift happening where you have Drake May, you have Bo Nix, you got Daniel Jones who came out of nowhere. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it feels a little bit to me like the Steelers of 1981, 82, the 49ers of the mid 90s or so, a little past the mid 90s. Yeah, around the mid 90s when the Cowboys, so and then the Cowboys of the early thousands, where you still have, the Emmitt Smiths and the Troy Aikmans, the Steve Youngs, Terry Bradshaw still playing, but there's just something different. And I hate to say this, and I think we said this in the opening week. There's something that's just a half step slower. I think we were talking about Lamar Jackson actually, but I'm sure we've said this in all these weeks. It's something just a half step off with Mahomes, with Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know if he doesn't, the weapons aren't just there, but he just, some of the plays that he's missing. And one he really talked about that he probably shouldn't have thrown was that fourth down to Kelsey that he didn't lead him. And, those are plays that Mahomes always made. So to me, it's starting to feel like now we're well into the second half. Listen, the Chiefs can still go on a run. We just don't know. I mean, they can end up at 12-5. Not likely with their schedule that's coming up, but um, it to me is starting to feel like we see those dynasties, and I think the Chiefs have been a dynasty here. Start to kind of wane just a little bit, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the year. Fascinating, actually, for me. All right, your list, which has become extremely popular online, by the way, as you have seen, and we did get one comment. Hey, where's the new one? When's that coming out? So I'll have to post this as quick as possible, which is very good because you do a great job with this. So take it away.
well, thanks. One more note on the Chiefs too. One of their biggest detriments, and I guess I could get into this later, is all of the teams that they need to pass to get to the playoffs they've lost to.
Right.
And that's going to be really big when you're talking week 17, 18. All
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Bottom tier here is second screen duties. I saw this video and I thought it was kind of interesting. That apparently like actors and actresses out in Hollywood are given what they call second screen cues. Because basically they recognize that there's some people that are like watching two screens, whether it's they're watching football and then they're watching something on Netflix. And so they have to kind of direct stuff differently so they can try to capture people's attention.
Huh. So,
Um,
okay.
so like all of these teams, like you're a fan of these teams, you're gonna watch them, but you're gonna watch them on your phone while you watch something else, or like you might be just listening to them.
Yeah,
For example, the Commanders, who now own the longest current losing streak in the NFL at 6 games.
that's surprising.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're I think right up there as one of the most disappointing teams in the league.
Yeah.
A few others to point out in this tier: the Raiders. Fun fact for them, Geno Smith has had twice as many rushing yards as Eshon Genty this past on Monday Night Football. So I think he's not a bust, obviously, it's first year, but I think part of the biggest issue with the Raiders, aside from aside from like that, like their coaching has been kind of weird. Um Genty just hasn't done what they thought he would.
Yeah.
Um, I also want to point out the Titans. They're the only team in the NFL left with just one win. Um, and they're gonna have to start asking that question: is Cam Ward the guy? Which it's still too early to say.
Still
Oh well,
early.
get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
He does though have the worst passer rating of any quarterback that's made at least 150 attempts.
And
Um,
Genty was the big running back, Boise State, right? Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I think he'll be okay. His size for the NFL worries me a little bit, but I think he'll be okay. But I'm just, if you're Pete Carroll or you're like, man, why did I come out of retirement? I mean, he's still smiling and jumping around. He doesn't seem, he's 74 years old, and that amazes me every time I look at him. But boy, this has got to be hurting.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like I mean, you just talked about the New York guys that were not known for being in New York. You don't want to look back and be like, wait, Pete Carroll coached the Raiders for 2, 3 more years? What? That's weird.
It's true.
Um, Speaking of bad coaching, the Giants. Um, so I don't know if you know this, the Giants can actually get eliminated from playoff contention this week
Wow.
if they lose and then Minnesota, Seattle, or Dallas wins.
Yeah.
Um, if that were to happen, it would be the earliest a team has been eliminated from playoff contention since 2020 when the Jets were eliminated in week 11.
Yeah.
And it would also be the earliest the Giants were eliminated from a season since 1976, the year that they opened Giants Stadium,
Wow.
and they started the year 0-8.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, forgettable season for the Giants. But for these next tier, it's getting late early. We always like to talk about that, the Yogi
Yep.
Berra quote, it's getting late early.
Yep.
And I think these teams, it's like it's starting to look a little bit too late for that. I want to point out two of these guys, the Cardinals. I don't know if you saw Jacoby Brissett set a record last week. He
No.
had the most completions in a loss. He went 47 for 57.
Wow.
So 47 completions, 452 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and the Cardinals still lost by 19 points.
Wow.
That really stinks.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, it's what makes it late early for them isn't necessarily their record because they're 4-5-1. They could still go on a run. Dak has had an excellent year. However, here's who they still have on their schedule. They still have to play Philly. They play Kansas City on Thanksgiving, so that's a short week.
Yeah.
At Detroit, and then they also play the Chargers.
Oof.
If they lose all 4 of those games, it's done.
Yeah.
Which Kansas City seems a lot more even than it did a few weeks ago, but still.
It,
Um,
it seemed like probably at the beginning of the year that seemed like a good matchup, and that's years ago that was a classic matchup. But Cowboys Raiders Monday night, I didn't see much of it. I saw maybe about a quarter or two, but boy oh boy, there were I you could count on one hand how many Raider fans were in the stadium, man. It was like all Dallas fans. I mean, Raider Nation, they still travel. So in the lower deck, there were a lot of Raider fans dressed in their garb, but it seemed like everybody else was Dallas fans.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Dallas. It's gonna be interesting because also you look at them and you wonder, like, did Jerry Jones actually do a good job? I don't know
Yeah.
because the Packers haven't done what they thought they would do. But
Yeah. Yeah.
next tier is record is louder than the narrative.
Hmm.
I feel like sometimes people will talk about any of these teams that they're good or bad or whatever, but like you got to look at their record and it's pretty good. For
Mhm.
example, the Niners, they've been super injured all year and they're still 7-4.
Mhm.
They lost their quarterback for a stretch and they still only have 4 losses. Right now, they would be in the playoffs. Um, we talked a lot about the Chiefs. I'll just add this that they are 0-5 against teams currently in the playoff picture. Uh, if you're Kansas City, that should scare you. They also have not had a great road record. I don't have what it is, but um, the other teams I want to point out the Ravens. Um, the Ravens have held opponents to about 14.8 points per game in their last 5. So their defense has really turned it on.
Yeah.
However, obviously you didn't see the game last week. We saw it here. We didn't get to see Kansas City, Denver aside from highlights. Um, Lamar Jackson looked awful. In fact, he was so bad it was his first ever game where he had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know what's happening there. Last team I want to shout out is the Panthers. The Panthers are 6-5. And all of a sudden, they're just a half game behind Tampa Bay, and they still play each other twice. So we
Fun.
could be looking at the Carolina Panthers as winning that division still.
Never know.
Um,
Yeah.
but the very interesting stat with them, they are 6-0 when they win the coin toss and 0-5 when they lose it. Uh,
Crazy.
it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Next here, California Dreaming. These guys are dreaming of making it to California, home of Super Bowl 60.
Hmm.
The Bears have 5 come from behind wins this season. I think that we finally have seen the step up from Caleb Williams.
They've been a
So I know they've been incredible. Uh, you got the Chargers. Justin Herbert has been pressured more than any other quarterback since he's been in the league. And it seems like when he doesn't play well, the team is awful. And that's a problem. I think they could still make the playoffs, but I don't know if they're going to do anything.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, the Jaguars, they have the best strength of victory out of all of the current playoff teams.
Big
So
win.
they've beaten the good teams.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens overall, but um, yeah, these teams they're all good. Uh, I don't know if you can really make a case for all of them being in the top five. I think the top five is pretty straightforward this week.
Yeah.
Um, but let's get into it. I'll start with I have three that I really want to highlight and pinpoint. The first is the Eagles, who they have scored 3 less points this year overall than the New York Giants. Um, which is insane.
It
In
is.
fact, they have the lowest point total in their division, and yet they are still 8-2. Um, they also, talking about strength of victory, they have the second best strength of victory in the NFL. Um, Ironically, the number one team is the Giants, who, since they've only won 2 games, their 2 wins are against the Chargers and the Eagles. So,
Mm, mm.
uh, in other words, the Eagles are beating good teams, and it still kind of seems like they're not playing that well.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it a lot. They've learned how to win.
Yeah.
Um, Another team to look at here is the Patriots. They have just one more game against a current playoff team, which is the Bills. The rest of the teams they face are combined 16 and 36.
Yeah.
Um, they will probably easily triple their win total from last year, which was 4.
Yeah.
Which also just goes to show you having the right coach and the right quarterback combination is critical in the NFL.
It really
Drake
is.
May right now leads the league in passing yards. So,
Yeah.
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 Um, Last one I want to point out because they've really been kind of taking that step up is the Rams. And I want to ask you this question as I wrap up here. Who would you take for their full career at this point? Aaron Rodgers or Matt Stafford? Because Stafford could win the MVP this year. They go all the way to the Super Bowl. He'll have made it to 2 Super Bowls and could potentially win it. So who would you take?
Wow, that's a great question. Stafford did a lot of losing on some bad Detroit teams. He always played well, but it wasn't to me until he went to the Rams where he really showcased his true talent. But what he's doing this year is spectacular. Aaron Rodgers, I tell you what, man, all those years in Green Bay was very consistent. I thought that there were a lot of years he didn't win the big game. He should have gotten to more than one Super Bowl. But he did get to a Super Bowl and win it. Stafford may do it twice. That's a hard one, man. I like Stafford a lot, and I like what he's doing here on the tail end of his career. So right now, I would say Stafford, but Rodgers is going to walk right into the Hall of Fame. No matter what happens this year, and the last few years with the Jets. So, but I admire what Stafford has done. I thought he overcame a lot of adversity. Not that Rodgers didn't, especially early in his career with the whole Brett Favre thing. But I just like Stafford, what I see in the winner that I think he always was. But I think now, you put him on a good team. That was a brilliant trade. It really was. Who
Yeah,
would you?
I think it's one of those really rare win-win trades because also Jared Goff has kind of taken that next step. He's really taken on the personality of the Lions, and I would love for those two teams to face off in the NFC conference game because that'd
Yeah,
be a lot of fun.
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. Who would you take?
I think I'd take Stafford, especially if he wins. the MVP this year. I think especially if he makes it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also like he's a lot less problematic than Aaron Rodgers has been over the years. Whether like the weird darkness retreat of like, oh, I thought I was going to the Packers, but no, I'm definitely going to the Jets, and I'm just gonna completely crater the Jets.
Yeah. I try to
Like
I know. I try to the other stuff, the off-field stuff with Aaron Rodgers. I try to tune it out. I thought that documentary, like I told you, I thought it was pretty well balanced. So there was a good part that the way his career went, I understood the chip on his shoulder. He still's got that chip on his shoulder now. He's still trying to prove something now, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that drives him. All right. Great job as always. We'll get that posted as soon as possible. What are you watching this week? We've got 1 o'clock games. The Steelers at the Bears. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, not sure. I guess he's playing. I know he has a broken bone in his wrist, but it's in his left wrist. So I think he's playing. But the Steelers out at Soldier Field in Chicago. What are you thinking?
this is one of those, if you are the Bears, this is a game that you want to win. Um, I think especially since it's at home and you've been able to kind of turn it around a little bit. The only thing is, I believe the Steelers are coming off of a bye. No. Well, kind of. They beat the Bengals, so
Right.
uh
Wow. Jeez.
no, the Bengals defense is like horrible. I
Oh,
didn't
that's
have
all right.
that on
Yeah.
there, but
Bengals defense is tough.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, I think this is one that the Bears take.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Giants are at the Lions at Detroit. They were competitive this past week. I mean, we love Jameis Winston, but unfortunately, that's been a narrative of his career. He threw that big interception at the end there. Um, will the Giants give the Lions a run for their money, or do you smell an upset here?
I think they might give them a run for their money, but I don't know. I've kind of lost hope in any upsets this year.
Well,
But Jameis was fun. It does look like Dart might be ready,
oh, okay. I
but
didn't
we'll
see anything
see.
about. I was going to ask you about that. Okay. Um, I'll skip this one game. I'll come back to it in a second. But the Jets at Baltimore, and I know Lamar Jackson didn't practice, so he's kind of up in the air to play. And the Jets have made the quarterback change. Any chance of an upset here? The Ravens need every game.
I think there's a chance because Tyrod Taylor has shown, especially as like the backup that comes in like that,
Yeah,
that he's pretty competent and he's ready to go. Um, so I think there's a chance, but also the Ravens defense has been good over the last several weeks, and like you said, they've been in must-win territory, uh, really since they started out 1-5.
yeah,
So
yep.
I think that they'll get there.
Okay. The other big 1 o'clock game, and they probably would have put this at 4:25 had they known early in the year, but that is Indy at Kansas City.
This is a must-win, I think, kind of for both teams. Um, because like Kansas City is as desperate as they've been in years. Because you lose that sixth game here in November, it's going to be really hard to make the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and also if you lose to the Colts, like it'll just also look really bad just because it's like you've lost to another playoff team.
yeah.
But then also the Colts, I feel like there's still a lot of people that are like, I don't know if the Colts are real. I mean, look at their record.
They're
They've been
real.
good.
Yeah, they're real.
Um, but I do think Indy does take it.
Yeah. That's a fascinating matchup. It really is. All right, 4:25, Philly at Dallas is the national game this week. You mentioned Philly, how they just haven't scored, and Dallas is scoring like crazy. Um, I actually like the Cowboys in that game. What do you think?
Yeah, it's one of those people always think that divisional games will be a blowout. And yes, some are, but most of the time divisional games are like one score games.
Yeah,
And I think if you look at Dallas, I think that they'll be right there as a
yeah,
one score team. Or I think they could actually take it
yeah,
because Dak hasn't made the big mistakes recently. Their defense with some guy named Quinnen Williams has looked pretty good.
yeah. Thank you.
Uh, so I do think Dallas might take it.
Okay. All right. Sunday night, fascinating matchup Sunday night, and that is Tampa Bay at Los Angeles to take on the Rams.
This is one of those games where it's kind of make or break for Baker. Uh, they started out 6-2, and they could be staring at what, 6-5, 6-6.
Yeah,
They need a win here.
they need a win
The
here.
Rams, though, if the Rams take this, like I think most people have them as like a top 2, 3 team. People would say they're the top team if they win this.
Yeah,
I lean Rams, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Baker has another comeback.
yeah, yeah. I have no idea. I have no idea. It's going to be a fun game though. And then Monday night, I wouldn't have said that it was a big game, except Carolina is really coming out of, I shouldn't say coming out of nowhere. You could kind of sense that they're a much better team than they were last year. But Carolina are at San Francisco take on the 49ers Monday night.
This could be like Carolina's coming out party a little bit
Yeah,
because, well, you had said last year, towards the end of the year, they were playing pretty well. They
yeah,
weren't winning, but
yeah,
like they were in games. I remember watching the end of a game against the Eagles where they almost had this insane comeback and then just came short.
yeah,
Um, but if they beat the Niners on Monday night like that, people will be like, oh,
yeah,
the Panthers are actually good.
yeah,
And
yeah.
also they could have an opportunity to take the lead in the division, which would be, I think, very surprising for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, the year they had last year, I was surprised that they got a Monday night game, a Monday night slot, and especially this is starting to get a little bit later in the season now. So I thought that's really interesting. Albeit because I really haven't watched except for, when they played the Jets. There haven't been any Carolina games on here in New York, you know. Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, great job as always with the NFL. I'm going to skip the NBA just for the sake of time here today. We'll have plenty of time to talk NBA. And the other thing we didn't talk about is the baseball TV deals. We can talk about that next week. But the only thing is that the Rockets went into right down the road from you there in Cleveland last night and beat the Cavs. The Rockets all of a sudden have really turned it on. So I think the early season stories for me are the Rockets, the Pistons, who are playing great. OKC continues to play great. But Kenny, did you see that the number two team in the East is one Toronto Raptors? Raptors. Raptors, I said Raptors. They're 10-5. I don't know how long it's
Wow.
gonna last, but they've got good players. I mean, Barnes and RJ and our guys quickly and RJ. So I think we'll get into a little bit more NBA next week as we have a little less, baseball. But you ready for some inspiration?
Two quick things on the
Yeah.
NBA.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, Pistons won 10 in a row
Yeah.
on the same exact date that 2 years ago they lost 10 straight.
What?
En
Wow.
route to their
Yeah.
awful record from
Oh,
2023. Um, Also OKC 14-1. Um, you know that they own the Clippers first round pick in next year's draft.
right.
And of course the Clippers have struggled, so they could easily end up you can have a team that has a historically great season, win the championship, and also get the number one overall pick.
Oh,
Um, I think we found our next dynasty.
yeah. Well, I tell you, I marvel at OKC. They are just they put together just this unbelievable team, great coaching, and it's going to be interesting to see, man, as the season unfolds. But there's some teams that really look bad. Like I know the Knicks barely won that game last night, but I don't recognize several of the players with Dallas, and Cooper Flag didn't play last night either. Anyway, a lot to talk about in the NBA as we go down the road. So some inspiration real quick. I was coming from the movies on Monday night and happened to tune in a little bit to Monday Night Football on the radio. And I'm reminded of Kurt Warner, who is on there with our guy Kevin Harlan, who's the screamer, but I like Kevin Harlan, and I'm reminded of just the inspirational story that Kurt Warner is, and now he's been a broadcaster for a long time. Been on Monday Night Football since 2014. He was substituting for Boomer back then, and he's been the main analyst for there since 2018. Yeah, so he's been on Monday Night Football for quite some time on the radio side, but he's a very good announcer. But his story, if you've never seen American Underdog, huge recommendation. Go out and rent that, or you could probably get it for nothing. But it is just it tells his story and his story of faith in just a fascinating way. So Kurt Warner, and he's one of the few. Ken, we'd have to look that up. I don't know how many starting quarterbacks have won Super Bowls with two different teams, or have taken two different teams to Super Bowls. He didn't win it with the Cardinals, but of course he won it with the Rams, and he took them to another one. He took them to two. He's two-time MVP, Hall of Famer, and but then he rises up towards the back end. He spends those couple of years with the Giants, kind of keeping the seat warm for Eli. Giants kind of kick him out. It didn't end well with him at the Giants. He winds up with the Cardinals, takes them all the way to the Super Bowl. They don't beat the Steelers, but it was quite a run that year. But Kurt Warner is a fascinating dude. And for some reason, I just haven't seen him on TV or heard from him in a little while. Just hearing him on Monday night made me realize what a fascinating guy he is. Watch that movie. Kurt Warner, inspiration for this week.
That's a good one. Four quarterbacks have led two different teams to the Super Bowl. Kurt Warner is one. You should know two of them.
I should. Uh,
Yeah, they're kind of big profile.
Big profile quarterback. Not
Yeah,
Montana never got the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. Um, oh man. Oh, Tom Brady.
Tom
Gosh.
Brady's one,
Yeah, and Peyton.
and Peyton's another.
Right.
Also, I don't know this guy, Craig Morton.
Craig Morton. Yeah, do you quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys when and they won in the early 70s, and then in 77, 78, somewhere around there, he gets the Broncos to the Super Bowl. And ironically enough, they played the Cowboys. They lost to the Cowboys that year, but Craig Morton was a very good quarterback. Yes. Roger Staubach eventually took over from him in Dallas, and that's why he wound up getting traded to the Broncos. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Um, so my inspiration actually comes from a very interesting story that's been kind of big here in Cleveland. Um, Cleveland's quarterback legend, which usually those words don't go together, Bernie Kosar,
Yes.
has been dealing with a lot of health issues.
Yeah.
He has been dealing with cirrhosis of the liver for the last several years and has been on the liver transplant list for about a year now. Um, and as things always go with stuff like this, there's always the happy and sad of it because he did find a donor. Um, the donor was this young man, Bryce Dunlap, who was he's 21 years old, having a crazy out of nowhere medical procedure. And they tried to help him, but then he was declared brain dead. And so he was a huge Browns fan and wanted to donate his organs. Like that was part of his wishes. So his mom's like, well, yeah, let's donate his organs. Oh, wait, Bernie Kosar needs something. So he actually, as part of his death, he gave Bernie Kosar a new liver. So supposedly Kosar is doing well. He's recovering well. He's accepting the organ and everything. But it is also sad. I did see this one video of they were wheeling the kid in for surgery, and his grieving mom is behind, and they're cheering her on and very excited for her.
Wow.
So shout out. The mom's name is Kim Kane. Shout out to her for making the really tough choice
Yeah.
uh, of not only having to make a decision that you never want a mom to actually make, but then also as a result giving someone else life. So shout out to
Yeah.
her.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know the rest of that backstory. I've been seeing the health struggles that Bernie Kosar had. Wow. Did not know that. That's a fascinating story. Awesome. Awesome. Wow. All right. With that, as we I guess we have to figure out when we're doing our pod. We're not doing it Thanksgiving morning next week. So we'll figure that out, but we'll certainly have it out next week at some point. In the time being, Kenny, take us home.
Yeah, this is Kenny Squared N.
Kenny.
Sports on the Positive Tip. We'll see you guys next time.